The Chicago Bulls released an all access for training camp. In yesterday's episode, I talked about some things that were kind of mystery that we haven't heard from training camp. And all access actually brought a lot of those things out. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, it's Sunday, so that means it's mailbag day. We're going to get into the voicemails as well. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And so I want to start off with this all-access video from the Chicago Bulls. You guys can feel free to go watch it. It's about an 8-9 minute video, but there are a lot to come out of this video. Kind of some of the things that I have been wanting to see from the Bulls, some of the kind of questions that were left lingering kind of after, what we've heard from training camp and what we haven't really heard. And one thing that stood out to me is that we got to see Ayo Dosunmu being a hugely vocal leader in practice, leading portions of practice, calling out what the defense is doing, telling guys to kind of pay attention and kind of what the thought process was and what they're trying to establish. Like, this was one of the first things to see in this short video. Now, again, I want to put everything in the context of it's a very short video, and of course, it's curated and it's edited by the Chicago Bulls PR team. So there are a lot of things that could be edited to put things in a better light than what they are. That's why I really don't like talking about these type of things in a sense like, oh, we just know everybody. But it's good to see, right? And to see Ayo standing in front of the guys at practice in the middle, right, of those guys and telling them, hey, this is what we're trying to do on defense. This is what you want to run out and close this out. This is why we want to get out in transition in these moments. This is what you want to do here. Like, to see Ayo Dosunmu be that guy, we've talked about this a lot here on the show, is who's going to be the next leader to step up for the Chicago Bulls. And in this video, I tell you what, this really gave a huge impression that Ayo Dosunmu is ready to step into that leadership role, talking about where guys are supposed to be on defense, motivating Zach LaVine, right? This is like, we saw him giving motivation to Zach LaVine. And in yesterday's episode, I talked about the importance of guys buying into leadership, right? It's good to be vocal, but if you don't have guys that are willing to follow you, right, that are willing to, hey, listen to what's being said by the guy out there, especially being somebody who's been in the league longer than Ayo and Zach LaVine listening, right? And you saw Zach LaVine looking at Ayo Dosunmu and being like, all right, yeah, I got you. Like, and not in a dismissive way. That's a big thing. And you want your young guys to step up at the right time in the right moments for your players. And that was really, really good to see. Ayo Dosunmu stepping into that leadership role, and Kobe as well, right? I want to be clear here. We saw a little bit of it from Kobe, but the standout moment, at least in my opinion, was seeing Ayo stand in front of the guys and give that direction, give that leadership. And for a team that's looking to build that and wondering where that next leadership is coming from, listen, to see that moment from Ayo Dosunmu was a really good moment to see. Now let's see how that translates once the season starts, right? And so that is. And then as far as picking up on the Kobe aspect, there was a short clip, but it was a short couple of clips mashed together of Kobe and Josh Giddey actually working together in like a two-man game, right? Josh moving without the ball, and then him getting the ball, Kobe moving without the ball, getting the ball to Kobe taking that shot. There's some of that as well, and that was another thing that I've been saying that I'm waiting to kind of see once the preseason games start, is see how that dynamic between Josh Giddey and Kobe works out as far as when one has the ball, how does the other one move? And Kobe White's catch and shoot has been one of the weaker parts of his game, right? I've said that. A lot of people have talked about that. And so to see, him working on that aspect of it and at least coming into that and looking okay. Listen, again, very short clip. I want to put everything into perspective. I'm not trying to act like, oh, we saw this great clip and that just means that these guys are going to work great off the ball together and we shouldn't be worried about it anymore. Listen, I'm way too realistic to ever say something like that, but I am still, it's promising enough to see that those things were coming along for this Bulls team. So, like I said, all solid things to see in that aspect. Another thing that I had kind of been waiting on to see is what it was going to look like with getting Josh Giddey, Kobe White out there, and how that dynamic was working between those two guys is one of the big parts once the games are on. I'm really looking forward to seeing, and seeing a little bit of that was really important as well. Next up, Jaylen Smith talking about how he's worked in AAU with Kobe and with Ayo. He knows Chris Duarte. and talking about how that familiarity has helped him come in here and build off the chemistry that he has with those guys. I think that's a really important aspect of it as well. Like, somebody said it in the voicemail. I picked up on it as well. Like, chemistry is one of the hardest things to really kind of to dictate and kind of gauge how much is going to help your basketball team, right? It's a really hard thing to do because you never really know exactly like how that chemistry is going to work out. The chemistry can either help elevate your team a little bit further than what it looks like it's going to be on paper, or a lack of chemistry can hurt your team and hurt it and keep it from actually reaching even the potential you see on paper. So, Jaylen Smith having that familiarity with those guys is something I've never really thought about. Somebody pointed it out in a live stream not too long ago that he's worked and been on AAU teams with Kobe White before, and so that's really good. Jaylen Smith, I've said before, much like with Kobe, he's one of those guys that can help all this go, right? And fit more seamlessly together depending on how those pieces work and who he's out there with and things like that. So Jaylen Smith can be a really big part, an important part of this team going forward, and so it's really good to hear him kind of getting into that area as well. Another thing is that we've heard about, right? We've heard about Wes Unel Jr. picking up and taking over that defensive scheming from Billy Donovan. And one of the questions that I had in yesterday's episode, for example, was, how much of that was going to maintain once the game starts, right? It could have been turned over to Wes Unel Jr. here doing training camp to try to focus on, whereas once the game start, Billy Donovan kind of takes that thing back over. We got to see a nice amount of this clip of Wes Unel Jr. Talking about the defensive philosophies, talking about how the defense of them closing out on shooters helps what they're trying to do on the offensive side of the ball. Him really get in there and explain what they're trying to do defensively and that scheming part of it. And so, from this clip, it really kind of made me feel even stronger that Wes Unel Jr. may actually operate as like a defensive coordinator on this team for this Bulls team coming into the season. And honestly, I think that'll probably be the best thing for this Bulls team if he is. Not to say that Billy Donovan hasn't coached solid defenses before. And for what it's worth, Billy Donovan in this all access video as well talked about bringing in Wes Unel Jr., what he's been able to do. AK talked about Wes Unel coming over from Denver. Billy Donovan talked about Dan Craig, and AK both talked about Dan Craig, and he's coming over and how he's done all the roles over in that Miami Heat team and how that can help add into this team. And so you're starting to see, especially from the way that AK talked about these guys, that bringing them over was really intentional to helping this team not only extend where they are now, but fix some limitations that they've saw in places before, especially with Dan Craig and his priority on development, right? So, it's a really good feel around this Bulls team right now. Things like all access, all of that really kind of add to that. And like I said, it was just really good to see your team get in there. And even Billy Donovan talking about what they want to do as far as being the best conditioned team in the NBA so they can get out there and run. I'll tell you this. I know a lot of us make fun about Vooch, and it's rightfully so. We saw Vooch get cooked on an assignment in a clip that came out, but Vooch was running the floor. In a couple of these clips, he was running the floor with Josh Giddey. He was running the floor with Ayo Dosunmu, right? And I tell you what, in this, he talked about, helping develop young players. Vooch did, I should say. And he seemed a lot more engaged in this all access than what he was in Media Day. Still, I'm still saying that does not take away from what we saw in Media Day and how much it seemed like Vooch is kind of ready to move on. But it was good to see Vooch as well talk about helping other players reach their potential. And that's kind of what a lot of the veterans have to be focused on here, is helping other players reach their potential, helping the team reach their potential and what their place and their role could be into that for, because that's where you can find your next challenge. I really believe, like with sports, with me, like with personally, right? Can't speak for everybody, but finding challenges within what you do and what you spend your time doing, that's the biggest thing to kind of help motivate you, right? Because anything can become mundane, right? So you find your own challenges within it. And so, it seems like Vooch and what he talked about in this clip is helping find that challenge and helping these young guys reach their level and things like that. So that was really good to see as well in this. But overall, this all access was really good to see. It really helped kind of add some more color to some of the things that I had thought as far as news and things have been lacking so far about certain aspects of what this team got going on. And let's hope that develops and that keeps going into the right direction as we get towards preseason games. And that's what Billy Donovan kind of ended the all access on, is talking about getting into real games and the fact that they will be playing live games shortly thereafter. And we'll see. I do think, and my win-loss prediction still has not changed. I see you guys giving your win-loss prediction in the comments lately, and a lot of guys seem to think that this team is going to be considerably better than next year. I don't believe that, but I tell you what, I still think that this is going to be a really fun offense overall, and I think this is going to be a really fun team to watch as well, and we'll see how successful they are in that fun. Now, an aspect in this that I have not touched on is Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips, and them talking about how much work they put in the offseason. Julian Phillips talking about the energy, the defense, even his shooting. Dalen Terry really focused a lot on the shooting and what he feels like he can bring to the game. And a big question right now for a lot of Bulls fans are wondering can Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry really crack this rotation? And here's the thing. Cracking the rotation and getting meaningful minutes are very different things, and they aren't mutually exclusive. Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips can't crack the rotation, but that doesn't mean they'll have a meaningful role or meaningful minutes, so to say, right? And I think ultimately it's not just saying can you crack the rotation is a low bar, but I understand why that bar is there. That you have to clear that bar first. The thing that I'm asking for Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips is how much can they get meaningful minutes on this team? And I think they both have paths of which they can do it. Julian was starting to get there towards the end of last season, right? He was really starting to get there, before his season got shortened with injury. And so I think that with his energy, his defense is where both these guys, because of their ability to guard multiple positions, where they can crack that rotation, but also how they refine their game, not making the big mistakes, right? And that's a big part of it as well. Dalen Terry had some really good defensive moments last year, right? I think on Tyrese Halliburton, he had a really good defensive game. If I'm not mistaken, he had a good one on Trae Young as well, I think, in a game, if I'm not mistaken. So, defensively is probably where these guys, especially on a team that, Billy Donovan has aired his defensive concern. I think Wes Unel Jr., being a guy who prioritized switchability on that defensive side of the ball, if these guys can really be sound defensively first, I think that's going to go a long way in helping them crack that rotation. Now, how they can go from cracking it to meaningful minutes is how well they do the other things in the game. How well are they moving in space, right? Because they're not going to be ball dominant. They're not going to get isolation times. So are they slashing to the rim at the right times? Are the instincts telling them that? Are they catching the lobs, right? The opportunities to where Ayo and Lonzo and Josh Giddey are thriving off getting them those opportunities, right? So there's a path there for these guys to get meaningful minutes. I just think that it has to come first, being sound defensively, and then how much can that energy that they naturally both have and how much their shooting has improved, how much that can add to the game as well. Because there's guys like Chris Duarte, there's guys like Torrey Craig, there's guys like those guys who are maybe kind of more proven commodities, right? Even though Chris Duarte the last 2 years hasn't really played a lot, but there are some opportunities there for those guys as well. So, we'll see how that goes down. But this was a really, like I said, after the mailbag I dropped yesterday to get kind of all those things kind of hit, it touched on in a little bit of a way in this all access video. Was really fun to see. And let's see. Hey, listen, 2 days, Chicago Bulls basketball. We'll be breaking it down. All right, let's get into these voicemails for today. This one's from Jamal.
What's up, hey, it's your boy Jamal back again on the voicemail for you. 3 minutes to get into it. So, of course, we had media day with the Bulls, things like that. Got to listen to, I haven't finished listening to all of the interviews. I actually still want to go back and listen to Josh Giddey's and them. But, just a thought ran across my mind as I saw Zach's interview. I didn't get the chance to listen to his fully. I saw some of the clips that he stated, but not fully. But a thought went across my mind. Zach is in a very interesting situation. You see, he's a player that, while talented, many people will claim that he's very talented. He also has this negative stigma on him of being a player that does not contribute to win. And upon not contributing to winning, that's part of the reason why I think a lot of teams are hesitant or did not want to trade for him, especially in the off season, right? So here's the thing. Zach is being a professional. I think the boys are handling this professional. They know, okay, we're going into the season. You're going to be on the scene. Zach is like, okay, cool. I'm wearing the Bulls right now. I'm still thankful for having a job, but, I think they both know that's not what either one of them wanted. So here's what I'm concerned with. Where do we go from here? And by that, I mean, what is Zach's goal in this season, right? Because is it something to do with, are you committed to the team and the future of it until your contract is out, or are you going to be a player that goes out there to try to drop 30 to try to increase your trade value? How does that increase your trade value if you're playing on a team that might be possibly tanking? If you're out there trying to be a ball hog and captain, put on a cape and everything like that and take all the shots, but does that, deter teams from wanting to trade for you because they're going to be thinking, oh, he's selfish. Then again, turn it around on the flip side. If you're out there holding back your numbers for the good of the team because the team wants to quote unquote tank, and I'm not saying the Bulls are trying to fully tank, but the team might not be wanting to get wins, and you're holding back your numbers, does that mean the team might hold back on you and say, well, you're not putting up good numbers? I don't know. I really wish, and maybe again, I need to watch the full interview of Zach and see what he says. I probably will. And I am interested in seeing where does his mindset go, at going into this upcoming season. And, is there a chance to change his mind? Well, we can get back on the kumbaya and the Bulls hold this thing together, or is it more of a, yeah, Zach is gone and we're pretty much banking on just the young cats all together? But let me know what you think. Also, good to see Lonzo Ball. So happy for the brother. His injuries, I know, were a big deal, but I did not want his career to end. I think he's a fantastic talent. Hopefully he's able to come back and have a good, long, prosperous career. Other than that, see where it go, Bulls. Peace.
Zach LaVine, what are his goals this season is something that a lot of people are asking Jamal. And I think, like, to what you said, everybody knows Zach LaVine can score. So I hope that, and I can't say for sure what Zach's goals are, but I hope that it's not, let me prove a point by going out and scoring 30, because everybody knows you can score. There's not really a lot of people who are like, oh, Zach LaVine can't score the ball. It's how meaningful is that scoring being, and like how much can he do the other things? Can he step up defensively? So I think Zach LaVine being really engaged this season, it needs to be the biggest thing for him, right? And he said it in that interview, doing whatever's asked of him. If it's needing to step up on a defensive assignment, if it's hitting a big shot, right? Those type of things, playing off the ball, playing off Josh Giddey, playing off Kobe White. That's going to be a really big thing, I think, for Zach LaVine this season. And listen, he can do it. It's not a question on if he can do it. And like I said, it's not a question on if he can score. We know Zach LaVine can score the basketball. There's not a lot of questions about that. It's how much can he do the other things? How much can he eliminate the mistakes? How much can he have better basketball IQ down the stretch? How much can he, contribute to fitting in on a team? And I think those are things. Now, if Zach LaVine's goal is ultimately to get off this Bulls team, all right, you still want to fit in. If Zach LaVine's goal ultimately is like, I just want to win basketball games, still that. You need to fit into what this team concept is doing, and let's get there as a team. So I think all those things are served by Zach LaVine really coming in, buying into the system, fitting into his role, and thriving. And Zach LaVine can do that. Just wait and see if he will. But all right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, this is Reginald from Columbus, Georgia. I just got done listening to you talk about how the Bulls signed Josh Primo, and then 3 hours later, he got cut. In my mind, the first thing I thought, oh my God, Josh Primo must have got caught rubbing himself down with like 2-3 bottles of baby oil in the Bulls locker room, and they just say, you know what? Nah, we can't handle this. We can't have Primo and Giddey on the same team with all this bullshit going around. But I mean, damn, like, dude, how you get fired? He just got hired. But nah, when I heard you explain that he was dealing with the injury and was probably gonna just be at the facility, I was like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But just looking at the comments of everybody when they were scrolling down, talking about how he got caught, on camera at Diddy house or some shit like that. They just found out. But hey, thanks for all the updates. I see you doing your thing. Love watching the show. No other, commentator / podcast host does it better than you. Thanks, man.
Listen, we're all going to make the Josh Primo jokes, but all jokes aside, right? In reality, Josh Primo made a mistake, and he talked about his mental health. And I'm somebody that everybody deserves a second chance. People saying that Josh Primo didn't deserve a second chance or the Bulls are foolish for signing him because of his past mistakes or anything like that. I'm sorry. He's only 21 years old now, right? Keep in mind, that was in the end of 2021, 2022, something like that. That was a 18, 19-year-old kid. Like, and that's not to excuse it and say, oh, it's okay because of that. No, but like everybody deserves a second. We got to stop having this thing where people can't try to redeem themselves. Or everything is all like, I get it. Like I said, I made the jokes, especially after he was waived. The people are going to make the jokes, but in the reality of it, and that's why I even said in that, like Josh Primo rehabbing with the Windy City Bulls, getting an opportunity on that Windy City Bulls team. People saying like, why would they do the PR to this to Josh? That shit's all died down already. Like, if you feel that this guy has some talent, right? And with how many first-round picks you get given up, if you're looking for talent at any position, doesn't mean how guard heavy or anything. If you think this guy, there's something there that you can uncover that can bring some talent to your basketball team that needs it, right? You owe yourself. The front office owes themselves to give that opportunity. And so it's a extremely low risk situation. Josh, you're not giving Josh Giddey some long-term guaranteed deal. You're not giving Josh Giddey something that's going to hurt your future. It's an Exhibit 10 deal, which he's already waived off of, and is now going to be a G League deal. There's no risk in that. None. So listen, Josh Primo, he did some fucked up shit. No mistake about it. What he did was fucked up. It was bad. There's no excuse from it. But that doesn't mean he can't come back from it. That doesn't mean he can't redeem himself from it. And then on the basketball side of it, he's a 21-year-old kid that's had a 30-point game in the NBA that, listen, while not being efficient or anything like that, efficiency, the signs of this may not work out are there. But that's why it's low risk. Because if it doesn't work out, you cut him. It's a G League deal. No harm, no foul. Move the fuck on. It just is what it is when it comes down to that. And we'll see. Because I guarantee you, if Josh Primo rehabs that injury, fills it up in the G League, I guarantee you, let Josh Primo have a season where he averages 22 points a game in the G League. Bulls, oh my God, why aren't we giving this guy why aren't we giving him an opportunity? Oh my God, he's so good. Just wait and see. We'll see what happens. Again, the most likely scenario in this is that it's nothing. Nothing. Josh Primo was in the G League. He plays there for a season or a couple, and we never really hear from him. And at that case, it is what it is, right? All right, let's get into this last voicemail. This one's from Bastion.
Yo, Hayes, what's up, brother? Bastion here. Hey, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about the 2021 year. Again, I'm bringing it back up as we move forward with this new team. A lot of people have negative thoughts on it, but I thought it was a positive year to me. A lot of people say we should have blown it up right after that year, but I just wanted to put a different view on it. One is we remember that was the first year we brought a whole new team together. Only 3 players started the previous year prior, and that was Kobe, Zach, and Pat. If you remember, Kobe had the shoulder injury beginning of the season, so he didn't even play like the first quarter of the season. Pat played 4 games, and then he was out most of the season after that. So really, there was only one player from the previous year, and everybody was all new. Them trying to gel made it hard. So just overcoming these difficulties I thought it was an amazing year. Lonzo played really good, leading the team to victory after victory. I know people say we didn't beat any good teams, but that number's kind of skewed because we beat good teams. They might not have been 500 when we beat them, though. So when they went back and checked everything, they saw that we had very few victories against teams over 500, but we beat a lot of those good teams when they were at 500 or just below it. But yeah, just talking about the injuries again, when they had that COVID thing going around, it was a lot of teams hit bad by it. And the Bulls were either the worst hit or the second worst. At the height of it, they had 10 or 11 players out with COVID or injury. We were literally starting G League players, not coming off the bench, but they were starting. And somehow we were finding ways to win. Ball and DeRozan were great during that time. And then we also have to remember that Zach pretty much played the whole season through injury. Early on, it was the finger injury, and then later it was the knee injury. And he was pretty much hobbling the whole time, not to the fact where he couldn't play, but he was playing through pain and shooting with an injured finger on his shooting hand. And I just look at all this, and I just think that the people that say we should have blown it up then don't really realize that when you bring a new team together, it takes a while to gel. And for them to even get the 6th seed amidst all the injuries and amidst all the everything else, it was a pretty good season. So we owed it to them to give them at least one more season.
Listen, the 21-22 season is always going to be something people either overvalue or they undervalue. That just is what it is, right? People are going to look at it and say, hey, well, the Bulls were number one. Like, people who hold on to that, oh, my God, they were number one team in the East. Yeah, they weren't going to stay number one team in the East. They've said it. Everybody said it. They were already starting signs of falling down. Their defensive efficiency wasn't there. Their offense wasn't even there. They just willed themselves to a lot of wins, and I give them tons of credit for that, right? That team was already showing signs of coming down to reality. Now, with that said, to completely throw it away, and the people that say, oh, we should have blew it up after the 2021-22 season, not many teams. I would almost say no team after being a 31, I believe it was 31 win team the season prior, to going to being above 500, to getting the 6th seed, you're not going to blow that up. Like, yeah, Lonzo had some injury. It ended up he didn't come back for 2 years, but they really thought that Lonzo was going to be able to make a return at some point this year. That year, right? And so no team is going to blow it all up after that. It's just not. And so, the revisionist history on, they should have blown it all up then. They weren't going to, and it wouldn't have made any sense to do that at that point in time. Now, that doesn't mean that it completely excuses some of their lack of activity, but they wasn't going to blow that team all up after the 2021-22 season. They just weren't going to do that. So, now one could say that you started showing signs that season of this core just not having the highest ceiling possible, which that is there, right? But ultimately, it is what it is. And that's just what it is. It is what it is. At this point, it doesn't matter. We're years removed from that. It's 2024-25 season. We're moving the hell on. Now it becomes about what we can do now. And they've made a lot of mistakes to get now. They've missed some opportunities getting us to this now. That goes without saying. But how much of this have you learned from that? That's the biggest thing. And we'll see what comes to that. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.